I think 2.5 years ago, some viewed the tape locally and thought it was fair or appropriate, or to some degree, it was, significant penalty and discipline. 2.5 years later, it's fair to say it isn't enough, and that's positive in that that's the way the things have gone in the last 2.5 years. That really the only thing that's ever acceptable anymore is dismissal.
That was Oklahoma head coach Bob Stoops saying he thinks if the Joe Mixon assault had happened in today's world as opposed to in 2014, the punishment would have been different. Trevor Matich is in the house. We appreciate you joining us on this and having your perspective, but I'm going to start with Max. Max, what's your reaction to Stoops' comments you just heard?
Well, he looks bad here. Stoops looks bad because it's fine if he recognizes his error and changes course, but once he changes course, the question is, why did he err in the first place? And what are the actual motives for changing course now? So I don't think there's a way around him looking bad.
He looked bad, but I think it was because he was inartful. Because I think what he was really trying to say, and what he did say at a different point in that 21 minutes, is that today, the second chances that might have been available 2.5 years ago aren't available now, partly because of the Ray Rice video. If the Mixon video had come out 2.5 years ago, that would have been the Ray Rice video. Then you look at Baylor and things that you can't come back from. All those things have transpired in the 2.5 years after that. And I think what he was saying is that while coaches look to how they can save a kid, if it's at all possible, and sometimes it's not, today that window is much more narrow, and dismissal really has become the only option.
Let me say this, and we'll get into this a little bit further. I didn't really have much of a problem with anything that Stoops said. I don't think the problem needs to be aimed in his direction for anything he articulated. I think the real problem emanating from his words is the indictment against our society that exists. He just illuminated it and highlighted it. When he talks about what would have been the case a couple of years ago compared to now, that's not an indictment against him. It's an indictment against us. This happened a couple of years ago. What happens? Mixon gets suspended for the year. The NFL at the same time, because the Ray Rice situation happened around that same time. Ray Rice's original sentence by Commissioner Roger Goodell was 2 games. It was only after the uproar, because of the release of the video, where we all saw with our own eyes what Ray Rice had actually done, that the commissioner then piggybacked off of it and ultimately suspended him indefinitely. I think it was like 6 games or whatever the case may be. My point to you is that that's not about what Stoops is saying. That's about Stoops highlighting, look, this is what it would have been like today. If this had happened today and we had to make this decision today, things might have been far more severe, because back then we were a bit too lenient. All of us were. The National Organization for Women and other women's rights organization. What is their battle cry? What is it that they're saying, Molly? What they're saying is that you guys, you folks, have not paid nearly enough attention to this, which is why when the Ray Rice situation came down, what happened? Everybody came out, and all of a sudden you saw USA Today with articles highlighting Roger Goodell the day he took office, and the cases that came before him, and the leniency that he had exercised, and how the NFL needed to address this, and how big and poignant of a problem this was, because we didn't address it with the fervor and the tenacity that it deserved. And that's what I took from what Stoops was saying yesterday.
Stephen A., that's fair. Let me preface what I'm about to say by the fact that I think I understand the situation as well as a man can.
Okay.
When I was a small boy, I saw my mom beaten and bruised, and I was helpless to do anything about it. Imagine seeing it now. So when I heard about what Mixon had done, without the video, my first reaction was fury, because I had seen it. I didn't have to imagine it academically like a written description would be. And I think the video coming out makes it real to people, and that's good, because all of a sudden now it's no longer academic, it's visceral. And I think it's not just good for the way we treat these kinds of situations, it's good for young men to actually see the ramifications of it. Because when they're in the heat of the moment, they're thinking whatever they're thinking, and I'm the alpha man, and all of a sudden now in the back of their mind is, hey, this is ugly, and the results are ugly. And we all agree with that. I think where we have a disagreement is in how Bob Stoops handled it back then. because back then he thought like a coach thinks, which is, I promised the parents of this kid, Joe Mixon, that I would treat him like my own son. The ugly incident happened. It was ugly. Is it something that can be come back from? Stoops thought yes, because this was a guy that was a good kid in Stoops' mind who made a bad mistake. He wasn't a bad kid who did something you would expect. He didn't just sit him out for a year. He made him go through a long series of steps with zero margin for error for Mixon and made him earn his way back. And Mixon's a better young man for it. And that's what we're talking about. Some things you can't come back from. But I think now, and this is what Stoops said, today, because of this Mixon video, the Rice video, Baylor, Greg Hardy, etc., now the margin for error for who gets a second chance and who doesn't has changed. And that's a good thing in this way. If it prevents it from happening, if somebody thinks twice before doing it again, then I'm down for it.
I don't even want to add anything to that. I think that was just right.
So well said. And we so appreciate your perspective and your honesty for opening up here, because it matters for this discussion. So thank you. Merry Christmas, Trevor.
You too.
Happy New Year. We will see you next week. Coming up next, the bad man has the Packers rolling, but will he roll to another MVP? The guys will tell you that after the break. With the playoffs looking like they were out of reach for the Packers, Aaron Rodgers proclaimed the team could run the table, and so far they have, winning 4 straight games. Rodgers backing it up. Recent success has boosted not only his team to the 6th seed in the current playoff picture, but his MVP hopes as well. Just 2 weeks ago, ESPN.com's poll had Rodgers with the 10th most MVP votes. Now he has shot up to 5th most on the list. Stephen A., do you agree Rodgers is a top 5 MVP candidate?
Well, I easily agree with that, and I don't think he should be at number 5, but I don't think he should be above the top 3. I mean, when I think about the top 3, I'm thinking about Tom Brady, okay, and I'm thinking about Ezekiel Elliott. They come to mind immediately.
Brady,
okay,
laughable.
We can debate about Dak Prescott. We can debate about Derek Carr. All right, but Aaron Rodgers is at 3 or 4, but Ezekiel Elliott and Tom Brady definitely come before. Aaron Rodgers has been sensational, but there was like a 4 to 5 week gap there where they struggled. He's been absolutely sensational ever since. He's been better than average all consistently, even when he was on his downside. But that 4 to 5 week gap hurt him. I think that you got Tom Brady. I think you got Ezekiel Elliott. You want to debate Aaron Rodgers at 3 or 4, ahead or behind Derek Carr. I'm open for that discussion. But he does not deserve to be number 1, but he does not also deserve to be number 5.
Allow me to use the Socratic method on...
Socratic? I'm sorry,
yes,
Socratic?
on the both of you.
So that's Socratic?
This method of inquiry. Let me ask
like
you.
as in
I will demonstrate.
Socrates?
Yes.
Let
I will
me know what
demonstrate.
Socratic
yes,
means.
well, you will see.
Socrates,
Let me ask you this. Who do
I'm
you
aware.
two think should be number 1 in the MVP voting at the moment?
Tom Brady.
You both think Tom Brady?
Tom Brady.
Yes.
Okay. Would you agree that Tom Brady has more talent and a better coach around him than Aaron Rodgers?
More talent?
Aaron
Talent?
Rodgers with no secondary, banged up and
think Tom
diminished
Brady's
receivers
just
and
more
no
clutch.
running game. I'm not asking that.
Okay,
I'm asking,
sorry,
let's
what's your
confine it to the
question
question. Does Tom Brady have a better coach and more talent around him on
Yes.
his team than Aaron
has a
Rodgers?
better coach.
Yes or no? Does he have
Better
more
coach.
talent?
I don't
You
know.
say yes. Okay.
I say yes.
Now
It's
let me ask you
questionable,
this.
but I say
if
yes.
you
Tough one.
therefore say Tom Brady is better, what you are saying is necessarily that it can't be so close between them that Aaron Rodgers, extra 4 games played doesn't have significant value.
Yeah, 4 bad games.
Now let me show you the numbers. Here is just the last 10 games Aaron Rodgers played, which line up perfectly with the 10 games Tom Brady has played. Let's see how they've done compared to one another. Total QBR, Brady's in a slight lead. Passing yards per game, Brady, slight lead. Touchdown to interception ratio, again, Brady slightly, but this is all very close. And completion percentage, Brady over the last 10 games with a better coach and more talent has a very marginal advantage on a per game basis over Aaron Rodgers. And you think he should win MVP, but Aaron Rodgers has 4 games more value than Tom Brady. Drop the mic. That conversation is
Who's a
over.
better talent? Chris Hogan?
I'm going to tell you why we don't drop the mic. Because once again, Mr. Beetlejuice himself is going by numbers instead of watching the games. And let me tell you something right now. Here's the deal.
You go ask Weezy about that one.
I am going to ask you that. Listen, man, George Jefferson, I'm proud. I'm almost 50. I'm proud of it. I'm trying to tell you right now. I wish I could go ball. But Weezy's coming. George Jefferson, I'll do Chicken George if you want me to. Don't bother me. Here's the deal, man. When you look at Aaron Rodgers, I don't like going against that bad man. That's a bad brother. I get it. But what you're ignoring and what you're not taking into account with those eyes of yours is the fact that Aaron Rodgers has had to try to compensate for an awful defense at one point this year. So he's out there slinging the football all over the place. He's taking chances, and his numbers at times may have been better because he's had to do more. When you look at Tom Brady, obviously it's within the flow of the offense. You look at the efficiency, the 22 touchdowns, just 2 interceptions, a QBR of 89, et cetera, which is about 17 points higher than Aaron Rodgers. We can look at those numbers, but what I am saying to you is that I told you this from day one. When I looked at Tom Brady, 11-1, running the table, being as efficient as he is. I'm telling you right now, we sat on this show and debated. We said Aaron Rodgers. We said Aaron Rodgers. I said he's going to be 11. I said we said Aaron Rodgers. We debated this. Aaron Rodgers is going to be fine. But there was a point in time with 3 or 4 weeks we were debating what we were seeing from Aaron Rodgers because he didn't seem like it was. We blamed Randall Cobb. We blamed Jordy Nelson. We blamed these guys. But that's what it is.
No. You're negating the first 4 games. Even if you don't think they were particularly good, they didn't hold zero value. He started at quarterback and won some of them in the NFL. These numbers are extremely close. Tom Brady over the last 10 games
are close.
Is marginally better than Aaron Rodgers. When you normalize for the teams they're on, actually, Aaron Rodgers may be having a better last 10 games than Tom Brady, and that doesn't include the first 4 games where Tom Brady had precisely zero value. There is simply no way to argue that Brady has more value than Aaron Rodgers this year.
You dropped your mic, I'll drop mine.
Yeah.
I actually spoke to Aaron Rodgers a few days ago, and Aaron Rodgers says if Tom Brady wins the MVP, he has no problem with it.
Well, that means that Tom Brady deserves MVP.
It does carry a little bit of weight. It does carry a little bit of weight. It certainly does.
I'm just saying
same numbers. One guy played 4 more games.
He's so emotional
it's not
about
everything.
this.
It's not everything, but it does say something.
Aaron, let me handle this argument for you from now on. Don't be giving away
Let's
the story.
go from the greatest coach in football, Bill Belichick, to the greatest college football coach. So this week we saw several college football stars like Christian McCaffrey, Leonard Fournette announce they wouldn't be playing in their bowl game so they can prepare for the NFL draft. This prompted Alabama head coach Nick Saban, Stephen A's favorite, to speak out against the new playoff format, saying it takes the value out of the smaller bowl games. Take a listen.
You're going to diminish the importance of other bowl games in college football, all right, which has happened. That has happened. All anybody talks about is the playoffs. All right, we have a whole bunch of other bowl games that, people don't think are all that important. So if you don't think it's important, all of a sudden some players don't think it's important. So you can't really blame the players. We created this.
Oh, Max,
Yeah.
you relax now?
Totally relaxed.
Okay, ready to move on.
Having won the argument by such a margin.
Okay,
Glad
stay
you think
focused.
so.
Is Nick Saban right here?
He is exactly right. When it comes to the bowls versus a national title game or a playoff, it's a zero-sum game. Either you can have one or you can have the other. Once you have a national title game and a playoff, what that necessarily means is you have devalued the bowls. If you don't have the national title game and a playoff, then the bowls have greater value. There's no way around that equation. And so the question becomes, what do you care about more? You cannot have your cake and eat it too. You eat the cake, it's gone. You can't have both. So what do you value more? I value, although I see the value in the bowl system the way it used to be, I like that, it was fun. I don't think all sports has to be homogenous. It can be asymmetrical, it's okay. But if you ask me what I prefer a playoff. But I realize I have to give something up to get it.
Mm-hmm.
I love me some Nick Saban.
Yep.
I love the accountability that he brings to the equation. I think it's great for kids to have that because it prepares them for life beyond the sport of football and beyond college. So I'm not only just a fan of Nick Saban, I'm an admirer. Mm-hmm. Having said all of that, it doesn't mean that he does not come across at times as being a bit hypocritical. And I think that's the thing to peel from this equation. Max is absolutely right when he says that Nick Saban is right. He's not wrong. Mm-hmm. But how the hell are you going to sit up there and try to act like playoffs are an impediment where something that highlights the importance of actually winning doesn't matter when all you do is win. And oh, by the way, because you win, you're the $7 million a year man as the coach at Alabama who could do anything that he basically wants to do. If everybody could be a Nick Saban, then you would have that argument. But the fact is they can't. That's why Alabama is Alabama. Not just the football, but the institution, the facilities that are available to them that everybody doesn't have.
They can't both
Because-
matter.
listen,
They
but
can't
that shows
both
you
bowls
that-
and the playoff can't both matter.
And it shows you that he's genuine in his position because you're right. This system favors
But wait,
him.
wait,
Yeah.
The Bowls favor everyone
I
else.
get your
Time out,
point,
time
but
out.
it just
what I'm saying to you, he could say that, but he's benefiting from it because when you try to come across as if all the bowls shouldn't matter and the priority shouldn't be on defining a definitive winner, then you're basically ignoring the benefits that you receive from being the winner that you are.
But that's why he's credible because
It's
because
not-
the
it's not
playoff
credible.
benefits Nick Saban because he's the one who's going to win
Of course.
it.
But-
But
So
the
when
smaller coach is trying to get to a bowl. It does.
And when he defends the bowl system, what he's saying is, in spite of the fact that this is in my best interest,
Right.
I like the
But
tradition
wait a
of the
minute.
bowls.
But you also have to remember where your point might be a touch inaccurate in this regard is that even without the playoff system, when you build a national power in the preseason polls, who's going to be number one?
Alabama.
Who's going to be at the top? There you go. So either way, he benefits.
But now they just shut everyone up
I'm just
because they
saying.
actually win on the field.
Instead of perfect, to get something, you have to give up something. And here we're giving up the bowls with the playoff.